thank you guys very, very much for coming today and joining me on this session with generative AI. It is the talk, naturally, of the town. I'm no June Yang, right? So I'm going to follow her, but we're going to talk about generative AI today and how Google and Accenture are changing the game. Okay? Sorry, get my clicker. First, a little introduction on me. Jimmy Priestas, based out of Washington, D.C. I'm our global managing director. I am responsible for all the business with data and AI globally with Google. So thank you very much. I live in D.C., as I said, with my wife, 2 rescue pit bulls. We're big into animal rescue. And I'm expecting my first child at the end of October. So it's something that I'm excited for, so thank you. Thank you. So this is probably my last trip of flying before I need to stay local. But it is such an exciting time to be in this space, right? If I remember where I grew up, I have about 1,500 people in my town, really, really small town. Technology, it was in the middle of Pennsylvania, farm country. Technology was not top of mind where I grew up. We played sports in Western PA. I did that, and naturally, I like to code in the free time. And I just had excitement for it. My first languages were like C++ and Java. That level of excitement, I went and furthered at Carnegie Mellon. And then naturally, seeing generative AI, the excitement today, right? It's just engaging, right? It's mind-blowing. But everybody is sharing in that excitement, which is just good to feel and hear. So just to judge the audience in the room a little bit, please, everybody has their phones, and I know that they're going to probably be bored in about 7 minutes, right? You know, that's just the engagement level. We're going to switch to a poll on Menti. I want to know who's in the room. So what industries you're going to be on and everything else. So you use menti.com, and when you log in with that number, just wait for a second. I'm going to give everybody time to write down that number. I will advance the deck, and there was only 2 questions. I promise to be quick. Give it another minute to get the number in, and then I will advance the slide. All right, ready? Should work. It's not, so we're going to go like this. All right, go ahead. I just probably opened it up on your phone. What industry are you representing in this group today? Let's see what we got. Okay, we got retail, software and platforms is leading the way. Got healthcare coming in, FS, federal even, great. Give it another minute. Just helps me understand how we tailor. Thank you guys for doing this. Another 10 seconds. All right, so software and platforms, financial services, retail, and healthcare is in the room today. Let's go to the next one. What word comes to mind? You can have 3 entries when you think of generative AI. Any word. Blank, huh? There's the first word. There you go. Next gen, cutting edge, automation. Big brother. That was an interesting one. Disruptive, acceleration, automation, staying in the middle. Speed, future, okay. Great. So I will stop. It's exciting times, right? It's clearly a lot more positive words there than I saw a few negative words, but we'll talk about that with some responsibleness. Now we can change to the deck. Probably not. How do I do that? Yep. Okay, great. Thank you so much. All right, so generative AI. Back to this. It's an understatement to say generative AI is changing everything, as we just saw on the screen just with all the words that were coming in, right? And when I say everything, work, play, consume, right? Everything that we even think. How generative AI impacts our lives, right, is changing the way we will work and do all those things. From science to business to society itself. It's all going to be transformed and reinvented. But change isn't coming. It's already here. The potential positive impact of generative AI and human creativity is unprecedented. By automating repetitive tasks and allowing our mind to think on the value-minded areas, it just frees us up to do such more in productivity and more value-minded work. The potential of generative AI to solve some of the world's problems is boundless. But as Churchill, I believe, started this, and then my favorite, Uncle Ben from Spider-Man, with great power comes great responsibility. It is critically important that at the very beginning of these technologies, as we undertake these together, we do so sustainably, securely, and responsibly for today and for tomorrow. So what's going to be the impact of generative AI on all of your industries? Based upon Accenture research, 40% of all of our working hours will be impacted by generative AI. So let's unpack that a little bit, right? 62%, so the first thing we did is we took, if you think of language, universal language, we read emails, we do all these things, PowerPoint, slides, et cetera, right? We look at that data, that's language. 62% of our working hours is language-based. We then apply generative AI to that across the industries, of which 60% could be either automated or augmented, right, by generative AI. So it's a new way of working. This radical shift is going to reinvent the way we do business and we work, right? That's the big takeaway from here, being 40%, and it's wide across the industry. You're gonna see in a few, some are more, some are less, but it's a pretty consistent average, around 40% either going to be automated or augmented. But this does not mean 40% of jobs are going to go away. Far from that. With generative AI, it introduces a new dimension of human and AI collaboration, in which most workers will have an assistant. Organizations that take steps now to decompose jobs into tasks, right, and invest in training with people to work alongside machines are really going to define the new performance frontier for their company and really have a leg up on their less imaginative competition. For example, when we look at call center or customer service, around 13 tasks came out of types of work, right, as we broke them down. When we applied generative AI to them, 4 tasks were completely human, maybe a little bit of augmentation, but majority human-based. These are highly complex, transactions that you need a human person really leading the way. 4 of those 13 as well were automated. These are simple transactions, what's the price of this, or can you give me a comparison of why? The other 5 were the human and machine collaboration or augmentation type, right? This was product recommendations, customer intent. So that type of, if we had to repeat, human only, or a little bit of machine, automation and augmentation. As we break down these tasks to really reinvent the work that we do and work in a different way, this is how we got to the 40%. So that's what I want to challenge you here today. Is your organization ready, right, for generative AI at scale? How can we use it to create new opportunities as well as for our organization as for our people? Many have already started on this journey, but we need to make sure we're looking at the very fundamentals of the business, the foundations of it. Without a clear vision, which is value-driven, centered on a digital core and a foundation of a skilled team ready to support you in this, you won't be able to achieve the potential that generative AI and this transformative technology brings. For it is much about people as technology. By democratizing knowledge and enabling access, just imagine if we all walked in right to our organizations, and we've all been there, we're trying to find different pieces and pockets of knowledge and who said this or where do I go for this. With Google search, right, Vertex AI search, imagine that in a couple click strokes. Now your entire organization is API based, and you can bring all of that at your fingertips back to have it's more productive workforce. That's where we're at in transformation, especially with Google. Harnessed in the right way, Gen AI will help everyone totally reinvent everything that they do. Now it's time to get started. So the rest of the presentation, we're going to do a little bit more Accenture research with some mind-blowing facts. Second thing, we're going to do a framework for scaling Gen AI. Third, we're actually going to apply it to Accenture. So we know this works because we applied it to ourselves, and we're going to show that case study. And then finally, we're going to show demos We're going to show real life things that are in action today. That'll be right at the end. So Accenture Research, we did a survey of over 2,300 global leaders. 97% of these leaders said Gen AI will transform their company and their industry. 75% of those companies have already planned AI into their business strategy and reworked their cloud plans to lay the foundation for the Gen AI framework. 2/3 of those companies are already reinvesting or increasing their spending in tech to lay that foundation. However, scaling AI, or now Gen AI too, is hard. Let's be direct. 76% of those executives reported they are having trouble scaling it across their enterprise. What's probably one of the main reasons? Fear. That's a good one. Data. Data is king, right? 50% of those executives have not started their enterprise data and AI journey, right? The second part will be talent. We're going to get into that in a little bit, right? Do they have the right people in place to really scale this? And the third, most people is on every mind, is it costs money, right? It's naturally a good implement. 42% of executives said in this survey, based upon their previous AI investments, they've exceeded their expectations. AI investments have exceeded their expectations. Only 1% said they didn't. So clearly the AI investment is paying off, right? There's a clear path to this success, to scaling and getting these returns. It starts with the premise: every part of every business needs to be reinvented. Let that sink in. Every part of every business needs to be reinvented. Your current benchmarks don't reflect, if you took a tech-enabled mindset, what could you do? It's not about it's too much change, it's we're all about the change. It's a completely different mindset, right? We're gonna focus on the later part of this, reinvention as a true strategy, like adopting that as a C-suite, right? Instead of doing tort reform or little modules that using industry benchmarks, turning it on its head and really reinventing your strategy, adopting that as your strategy. So we're gonna be first looking at value. We're always gonna lead with value. Second, we're gonna look at our people, which is our most valuable asset in any one of our companies. And third, we're gonna talk about the digital core, which is a lot of the technology individuals in here we're gonna focus on. So to achieve total enterprise reinvention, one must begin with value. You need to look at how you apply Gen AI to really extract the value out of your organization to then achieve what it could become. A clear and innovative vision is where you start, and that's adopting reinvention as a strategy. And this is adopted by your C-suite. The second one is value identification and business cases. Everyone probably in this room has had a list of business cases sitting since Gen AI started to come out of how it could be applied. Likely how you did that, which was a good start, you talked to your business leaders. They said, what could be, like, this is what I could do, right? And they might not fully understand the power of the technology yet, but they did tort reform or something that just goes to the next step versus actually reinventing the process as the metric to start with. And that's really where we're gonna talk a little bit more today on business cases. But the main part about that, everything that you undertake has an ROI, has a value. And you saw earlier, investing in AI has some good returns. Executive sponsorship, this is clear. This is critical, right? I'm gonna tell the example of Accenture. I'll give you an early preview. Julie Sweet, our CEO, drove this every single day for a month straight. Every day we were on a call, right? And she made sure we had the right funding, the right structure, organization to make sure we got ahead. That does not mean you need CEOs to do all of this work. It's empowering the right individual to make sure that it's a broad enough business case. It does not, we're gonna talk about where it lives within data and AI or others, but it really does impact all of your businesses. Last one is funding. You can't do anything without money. You need to naturally create some, but you're going to reallocate money to this purpose and truly adopt reinvention as a strategy. And we're gonna talk how you get started in a few. The second, the foundation of what we do is our people, right? Making talent a core business imperative, that is like the second step after you adopt reinvention as a strategy by your C-suite, is your people-minded focus. So because tech alone won't fix anything. Talent strategy, let's be honest, is hard, right? Skills are the critical currency of any organization. Moving from a talent consumer to a talent creator. So training, mentoring, education, investing in your people, right? So a little fact on Accenture on this, 20% of our US hires don't have a 4-year degree, right? Yes, we have 4-year degree people, we have many masters, PhDs, all that great jazz, but we looked at a different place to, some people might not have the ability to take a 4-year degree, but they have the technical skills and prowessness, right, to sign up, and then naturally, we saw great potential in them, and we invested in them to make sure we can give that to our clients, right? So just a different avenue from a talent strategy, what you're doing. The second, on diversity, equity, and inclusion, there's an old saying, what you track and measure actually gets done, right? You can't track what you don't measure, and if you don't measure something against a commitment, progress isn't made. And when I mean commitment, it's not about being committed to DEI, it's having a commitment, putting a number out there, making it available to all of your organization, and then tracking that progress for years. That's what we mean by having a commitment, okay? Because we know a culture that is diverse, inclusive, and fair will pay dividends in your reinvention strategy. The second one and the last one on people, encouraging a culture of innovation. So we're going to talk about this a little later, but you know, here we go again on reinvention, like, you know, we're going to reinvent again and like every 2 to 3 years, right? That mindset, really what we're going to talk about, the term reinventors, they adopt it from the get-go. There's always change because that's the universal constant, right? So really adopting that, and data literacy. So at Accenture, we created a program called Technology Quotient. Every one of our 738,000 people, HR, finance, et cetera, actually takes core classes in cloud, AI, 5G, others, because we adopted technology as a talent strategy, that everyone must be able to speak it because it will transform every one of our businesses. And then finally, we're all the tech-minded individuals that are likely in here. This is the start of what we call the digital core, the last part of our pyramid. We're going to lead with data, AI, and governance. I'm going to really talk about responsible AI, and I'm going to return to the boundaryless one. So responsible AI. The speed at which this technology is moving requires companies to pay close attention to any legal, ethical, and reputational risks, right? In a global survey of over 850 executives, 69% of the organizations, when we talked about responsible AI, had a pieces and parts in place in their organization. Only 6% actually have industrialized and scaled this across their organization. First call to action, 6% of 850 companies, right? Bias, discrimination, fairness, explainability are all areas of paramount concern. If you can't call anyone in your organization right now, especially the data and AI professionals, and they can tell you where data and AI is being used, how it's being used, why it's being used, in a very transparent way, you have work to do, right? So with Google, Accenture, right, and our clients, any project that we do, just to tell you the level of seniority that this gets at Accenture, we have a 3-way partnership, right, when we do work with the clients in Google, that actually is overseen by our board and our audit committee. So we can point every single project of what models we're using, what we are using it for, what are the outcomes we're achieving, and what are potential negative things that can be achieved and how we manage that. All in partnership with Google and our client so that we're 100% transparent in what we do. The last one I'll lead to on our responsible AI design framework. Happy to take other questions later on this because I know it's a hot topic. Principles and governance is one of our, so there's 4 pillars of it. Principles and governance, you need to have a mission, you need to have that mission elevated, it needs to be in everything that you do with data and AI going forward. Second, risk and policy control, so using local regulations that are out there to influence your policy. Naturally, you have to be well-minded of. Second, or third, technology and enablers, putting in models and tracking them in reports and where they go to monitor bias, discrimination, fairness, transparency, right? The last one, culture and trainings. As a data scientist, I used to love and go in and I'm trying to optimize an outcome, whatever I'm trying to get as a Y variable, right, in whatever model I'm trying to run. You don't think through what are the potential, like in the old days, like looking at what could happen because I'm over focused on getting something. Training the right dynamic of, I'm just gonna do a simple framework for every good outcome that you're trying to get or whatever you're trying to get as an outcome. What are 3 bad things that could happen on that? Then what are 3 more bad things? If you're well-rounded in that simple framework, we have much more detail one, but I'm just gonna do a simple one. That will help the data scientists and the developer and data engineers really build a model because data is biased, right? And then the model's just gonna even further bias that. So where does this live in an organization? This is that boundary list second box to the right that I was on the previous slide. So most organizations, when they start, are in the middle, which is the fastest way. It's the right blend of speed to quality as well as operational risks. It transcends your business units, right? Now, it is a living and breathing thing. We're on reinvention as a strategy and we continuously change. So Accenture, we started there, right in the middle. We empowered our chief AI officer, right? We brought in people from over 300 different leaders from our industries, our service groups, et cetera, and geo. Put them all under one roof, and we really set the design of what we want to do in the industry and how this will be impacted. Now, naturally, doesn't mean the left or the right are bad or good, right? It really depends upon how much rigor and investment and things that you have in place. We are actually, as Accenture, now moving into the left quadrant. We have now put our COE back inside our data and AI organization because we have become a mature place at this for the last 6 months. We have the networks in place, we have the teams in place, we have the organizational rigor in place. On the right, doesn't mean that it's bad. This is the fastest way. If you want to get out there, each individual business unit can do whatever they want. The bad thing about this is naturally quality control, as well as you might have the opportunity that people are rebuilding things that you can't leverage. So I don't like to advise the right, but sometimes like for tech-minded companies that are more product-focused, this is naturally a strategy that they can use too. Second part are pillars of the foundation, data and AI, actually the central components of it. We have much layers underneath this. We have a whole different talk on the modern data platform. But if you look at this, cloud is the enabler, data is the driver, and AI the differentiator. Data can be overwhelming. Most departments want to see that as silo, right? They control access because it's sensitive and things like that. If data needs to be democratized, right, and managed, it's the second most valuable asset in your company, second to your people. Data is only valuable when you can have it scaled across your enterprise and people have access to it, right? So data core is around the traditional master data management, data migration, things that we've been doing for years, right? It's not gonna change, it's there, you need data, core data. Second one, data modernization, so Kubernetes, things that actually scale your organization, the right architecture, both hybrid and hybrid architectures on-prem, even cloud, right? What does a future state organization look like in a modern data platform? And finally, we have data for growth. All of this new data that you'll now, if you democratize it, right, you can use it for new revenue streams. Because you're giving people more access to their jobs, there will be naturally more capabilities that you can do with this. So on the right-hand side, we have the AI ML services. These are harnessing the right analytical capabilities to maximize the value while using things like ML ops and capabilities to scale. So if we zoom in on large language models a little bit, on that architecture, especially with modern data stack, you need to do all of these, from prompting, right, to boosting to building, right? So buying something, naturally, go use all the Google models, right? I hope you all use them. We do. I have a few announcements that I'll make in a second. But this is using a pre-trained model, right, with Vertex. The second is boosting. So naturally, your data is your most valuable asset, second to your people. Using your data to fine-tune, naturally, a Google model, right, will make them specific for your organization and more valuable. The one on the right, the little difference, is pre-training your own. So when you bring, there might not be a model yet by Google for a very specific industry that you need to use, but their base model, right, that has 550 billion on Bison, right, is huge. But using your data set that could have hundreds of millions of tokens, right, could influence that for a very specific purpose. Naturally, that's more customization and more cost. Naturally, you have more compute. So that's kind of a little bit of the difference. Fine-tuning, you're tweaking. You're really throwing a sledgehammer at a model, right, and because of a lot more data there. And then the final one, build your own. So I just want to make this very clear. If you don't think it's the right idea right now to build your own model, don't start there, right? Use something that's already there and out of the gate. It will cost a lot, right? Anywhere between $5 to over $100 million, right? Depending upon the size of your organization. Because you go from small to really big orgs, right? You need the right people, naturally the compute power, right? All of that comes into building your own, but naturally you have a lot more customization and control over that model. I wouldn't advise to start there, but naturally moving from left to right is the traditional path and what we do. The last one is a secure data platform, right? Sustainability here is not an afterthought, right? So naturally the large language model is just going to consume more energy from the grid, right? We need to be mindful from that from the very start. And so if you look up and down from this, Google, Accenture, we use responsible AI and all of these things together, all on the data estate. So you're thinking of Cortex, you're thinking of all of that is already out of the box on Google. And then naturally the AI ML layers using Vertex and all the great things that came out even just yesterday of what they've announced. And then finally on Google Cloud and making it all secure with Mandiant and other things that are there at your disposal. How does this all fit together? We're going to introduce a new concept of total enterprise reinvention. I've been using the reinvention word a lot, so this is basically the ta-da. We start at the top with value, that is what we're doing, but our bedrock and our base is our people. And in the middle, we have a concept of the digital core, right? Centered around a digital core, what we did here, we had a survey with total enterprise reinvention of around 1,500 senior executives across our industries, right? We married this with a disruption index that we can have. It's on our website. You can go out and see that if you look at the geopolitical, economic, technological, right, the levels of uncertainty and what we've had the past 5 years have just shot through the roof, right? COVID, technological advances, it's just the degree of change has actually went up threefold. It's 200% change over 5 years. The previous 5 years was 5%. 5. So how can organizations continually change, right? With all that, that's the whole point of reinventing and adopting that as a strategy, because that's what we're doing, right? And really flipping it on head. What we saw come out of that were 3 groups of companies: reinventors, I'll show in a second, transformers, and optimizers. Reinventors took up 8% of that. Optimizers took up 86%, and transformers took up 86%, and optimizers took up 6%. So a little bit of a bell-shaped curve where you see it. Let's talk about those reinventors. Reinventors view reinvention as a strategy, and they're setting the new performance frontier for their company with this. Talent strategy was placed at the very beginning. It was not an afterthought, right? I don't want to build something and then let's go figure out how I need more people of X. What do my skills that I need to be future ready? What do I need in the first year, second year, third year, right? What does my organization look like? Second, they invested in that boundaryless data core, right, of an architecture. What are the outcomes of being a reinventor? 10% growth, right, these companies, 13% better cost structure, and a 17% better balance sheet, right? So to repeat, adopted reinvention, right, as a core strategy, invested in their people, putting it up front from the very, very beginning. And then the last one, digital core and being boundaryless, API driven, making sure data is democratized and accessible, led to that type of improvement. The last one that they did, they got speed to value 6 months faster, right, in their metrics than the transformers, right? Cash is king. The last one, they saw value as a 360-degree view. They looked at sustainability. They looked at DEI. All of that was calculated and then put as a commitment on their balance sheets of where they're going to transcend over the next few years. 86%, right, those transformers, they're doing great. Like, it's not anything not to be great to have a reinventor still core, typical bell curve as we all passed, right, college and everything else with. They're using tech in many parts of their business, but it's not interconnected, and they did not have a talent strategy that took technology as that talent strategy, right? The last one, I kind of alluded to it earlier, they revisit reinvention, right? That cultural mindset is what reinventors do from day one. It is just continuous, right? And you just always are changing, because change is that universal constant. The last one, optimizers. These are people that are doing not much tech at all. They're looking at business, organizational changes, functional changes, and so forth. So let's talk about the Accenture story real quick. We had to do this to ourselves, right? We're the best credential. So we started with funding and value, right? We hit $3 billion investment in data and AI, announced it a couple months ago. Just to show the importance of this $3 billion matches an equivalent $3 billion in cloud that we did a few years ago. That's how, put it on the same scale. Cloud investment, data and AI investment, exactly matched dollar for dollar, right? The main thing here is we're transforming our clients through Gen AI and capturing the data estate necessary for that transformation. This $3 billion is broken down into investing in our people first and foremost, right, which I'll cover in a few, an AI navigator, where working with Google, we identify sustainability impacts, like we have a use case, composite. We start clients of how do we go from this step to this step. It's an accelerator, right, that our clients can use in concert with Google. And then finally, we have industry solutions and accelerators. You can stop by our booth. We have many Gen AI demos that are actually live. They're not videos. So you will see them in action working. So that's that. The next one I already covered a little bit, CEO driven, right? This was our commitment, right, of what we did. This doesn't mean you have to have a CEO but driving it, but I would recommend all CEOs drive this because they are reinventing their company if they adopt that as a strategy. We started that Gen AI Center of Excellence where I kind of alluded to, right, 300 plus business leaders coming in, and we started that February, right, end of January. And now we're finally moving it back into the data and AI organizations. So we really pulled it out as a strategic growth, put focus on it, put people on it, right? And now we're moving it back in because it's matured as an organization, and we have it all in place, right? We invest in our people. So this was a commitment that we made, right? Like I said before, making a commitment. We are doubling our headcount in data and AI professionals from 40,000 to 80,000 in the next 2 to 3 years. Right? Because our clients want more, right? They need more people. We need more people, right? Next thing, you can't just go out and hire them, right? Got to build them. We do 40 million training hours per year, right, for across our 738,000 people. So look at your people, really invest in that. That is critical to the success. Next one, partnerships. You can't do it alone. Right? So naturally, Google you can partner with, right, for education and training and your people, and they have a ton of certifications. But you need other partners, even your local community partners. We have a number of them. I just took a Stanford course a couple weeks ago. Department of Human-Centered AI. It was they published the Helm framework. We brought in about 40 of our senior leaders in Gen AI, and we rolled up our sleeves with Stanford professors and really got taught how to create models that are unbiased, or what types of frameworks that we need to really scale this across the org. NYU, we're democratizing data and actually making it for data-driven evidence policymaking, which goes to the President Biden's council. Google and our data backbone, so all of Accenture, the backbone of Accenture, right, from a data and AI perspective is Google, right? We did this strategic transformation and moved to Google Cloud to support really our IT strategy for be platform-powered, cloud-first, and intelligence-driven. The last one on sustainability, we put a goal out there, a commitment to net zero carbons by 2025. So naturally with this, every time we do a large language model now, this is a very big metric that we compute in that AI navigator to make sure we are on track to hit our commitment for 2025. So what does this all mean? This is Accenture on a page. 732,000 people, right? Across 9,000 clients, 40 industries, and 120 countries. Google has powered all of it, right? And then naturally our people. So that is a big reinvention to make it do across 120 countries and 40 industries. So let's see some stuff in action. I've been talking the whole time, and now we're gonna have some fun, and we're gonna play a little video of what is in either development, right, in pilot or in production. And I can officially say one of the demos that you're gonna see first on medical record, and they announced it yesterday on MedPalm, that is now generally available. We are the first company and partner to have MedPalm in production at multiple hospitals and health plans today. So just went live yesterday. We turned it on last night for these early adopters of clients, and that is the first company to go live with MedPalm. So thank you, Google. Let's play it. Okay. Last question I'll put to you before we open up for Q&A. Do you want to be a reinventor? So we did ask the Transformers, 50% of them in that survey wanted to be a reinventor, naturally with some of the outcomes that's there. Thank you so much for coming. I'm happy to stand and take any questions that you want, but thank you so much for coming.